Hello and welcome back to Shifting Lanes Garage. My name's Chad and, well, we are back at Blue Sky. Mustang's right over there. We're getting so close, guys. We have so many new parts put onto the car. We're getting real close to Dyno, which means we're real close to me getting the car back. I am crazy excited. I haven't had this car since August. We're filming this in February. You can kind of do the math. Today, we've got some new parts on the car, so we're gonna go check them out and pretty much explain what they do, why we put them on, and why this isn't just a $6,000 supercharger install. It is an everything install. So let's get to it. Since the last time we were here, when we were looking at like all the driveline and suspension, what else has been done now to it to get it to this point?
So we have completely done a new fuel system on the car. We've changed it from a deadhead system to a full return system. So we're gonna keep fuel circulating, which any high performance application, that's what you wanna do. It's gonna prevent fuel from overheating, sitting on top of the fuel rail. So the fuel is sitting here pressurized, and what happens is it's, in my opinion, there's different things in this, but you're letting the fuel sit on top of a hot engine, which is making the fuel hotter and hotter and hotter.
And that's just like why you want to keep intake temps down. More prone. The hotter the whole system is, you're more prone to detonation. And yep. As I understand it, we're going to be pretty close to the capability of 93 yes. with the setup as it currently lives.
Yes. So if you can switch to an ethanol-based fuel, it's an alcohol-based fuel, so you have cooling factors in that. Where you kind of almost don't even need an intercooler in some applications. It's
like why a lot of the big power guys use methanol.
Yes, because you'll see after they make a run, if they have an aluminum intake, an aluminum blower, the intake is literally sweating moisture off of it because it's that cold, the fuel, when it turns to atomized.
Same concept of having a cold beverage on a humid day kind of a deal.
Outside of the can, exactly.
You know.
Exactly. We got the fuel system. It's overkill for what Chad's doing, but it's also insurance. So these cars factory don't have a fuel filter. With this fuel system, we had an inline fuel filter into it. Also, we have two pumps now. So if you did have a pump failure at high RPM, at high loads, we're not going to lean the engine out. We have a second pump that's there to take that load on for us. So anytime we're doing forced induction applications, to me, a fuel system is a must for reliability. There's always a the junkyard build, the backyard build type of thing. Yeah. You can get away with a lot of stuff, but it's for how long you're gonna get away with it.
And I want to get away with this for a very long time. There's some other stuff going on. This is where the catch can is gonna go?
So I believe the catch can, I can't remember if it's gonna live here or here. I think it's gonna live on this side somewhere, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And then also, before we put all of these awesome parts here, we had the whole front of the engine torn off of this. I think we have some pictures that we took of that. Yeah. So we replaced the oil pump gears and the crank sprocket on this. Those are some known failure points on the Coyote. They're just made out of a powdered metal, so they can crack easily. And usually it's rev limiter that does that. You're banging a rev limiter, it's kind of shaking the engine. With these superchargers, you have a gear drive in here that's reverberating through the bracketry down the belt, so that vibration can get its way into the oil pump and it can crack your oil pump gears on you. So again, you don't have to, but if you crack oil pump gears, you're gonna be really pissed that you didn't spend the cheap insurance money on doing it.
Yeah, we were up here and we were tearing it out, so they figured might as well do that. Was the crank sprocket something we're there, might as well kind of a thing? Or are we putting extra load with the supercharger on that particular area?
It's made out of a similar material to the oil pump gears. You don't generally hear that they fail, but you have to take the crank sprocket off to get to the oil pump. So again, you're like, the labor doesn't change. Yeah. You're buying a relatively inexpensive part compared to what a long block costs.
Yeah, we don't really want to grenade this thing.
So moving on, then we loaded this thing up with a centrifugal supercharger, but this is our fuel pressure regulator. So originally, every car needs a set fuel pressure to run off of. It's kind of like your baseline for fuel. So now we know how long to hold the injectors open, because we have a constant of fuel pressure. So my shop dog's over there. So the computer controlled fuel pressure by changing the voltage to the pump. So it spin the pump faster and slower based on fuel demand. There can be errors in that. It's a computer controlled system. There's wiring, voltage is involved if your alternator goes bad, if you have a bad ground, that's all going to affect your fuel pressure then. This is mechanically based. So there's a spring and a diaphragm in here. Fuel is going to come in here, go into our fuel rail, and we can manually set with this screw our fuel pressure, and whatever excess isn't used comes out this bottom port and returns back to the tank.
And that's where the return part of the return fuel system?
That's the return part. Just a more reliable way. It's a mechanical way of controlling fuel pressure, which is how we always used to do it. It's just the computer controlled stuff. You can have issues if there's little gremlins hiding in the car. We'll set that up at 55 PSI of fuel pressure. And then the other thing that we do too with this is you'll see there's a little barb fitting here where we're gonna hook a vacuum line up to that, which will be our boost reference. So think about this, if you have 55 PSI of fuel pressure in this rail, that's going into your intake manifold. If we have 10 pounds of boost now on the other side of that injector, pushing back on it, we really only have 45 PSI of fuel pressure because the boost is actually subtracting from it. So what this is gonna do is, as boost goes up, it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So every pound of boost we make, it's gonna make 1 more PSI of fuel pressure. So 10 pounds, we're gonna make 65 PSI of fuel pressure. And that really puts us at back to 55 because you're taking that 10 off of it. So you're keeping that level playing field. So that's very important. And they can do that with the computer too. Again, it's just this is never going to change on us. It'll always work the way it works.
Right. Again, it's simple. We're pushing beyond factory, so simple parts that are known to work, that do the job. ECU's not even going to know about this other than just fuel pressure sensor or something like that, or
the ECU will know. Yeah, it will know what the fuel pressure is, but it will have no way to control it.
Right. This will just kind of tell it what it is.
This is going to regulate it for us to keep it steady, and then the computer will just know in its head that, hey, I do have 55 PSI of fuel pressure. That's good. If I don't, I'm going to throw a code for something. I'm going to put the car into a fail-safe mode maybe to save it, something like that.
All of that, the last video, the fuel system, all of that stuff is just to support this. We have a Vortec V3 centrifugal supercharger that has a air-to-air front mount intercooler. Is it a blow-off valve on this, or is it a bypass?
This would be a blow-off valve. Yep.
So
a bypass valve will essentially recirculate, is kind of, so it would instead of blowing it out to atmosphere, it would blow it back into like this side of your intake tract.
Gotcha.
And that there's no good or bad to it. I mean, I guess you could get into a flow situation where you can't relieve enough pressure into this.
Okay.
But for most street applications, you would be fine putting it into here, but you're not going to get those cool sounds.
Yeah, and you'll see very soon I wanted to kind of, not crazy, but I wanted to hear it because frankly it's cool noise and I like it. So that's pretty much everything that you've put on the car. What's next? Kind
of mocking up where this fuel pressure regulator is going to land here, and then we're going to make our connections with our 2 lines here. These are our feed and return lines.
Injectors are in?
Fuel injectors are already in. You can kind of get a glimpse of them there, but they're buried, hard to see.
Yeah.
But they're bigger, that's for sure.
Such is coyote life.
Yep. And then we got a lot of vacuum lines that we have to deal with here. Rerouting some stuff, changing connection points on things. We still have to mount the catch can up, which I believe it lives over here somewhere.
I think it was a driver's side, now that I'm remembering.
Okay.
That could be totally wrong,
yeah.
But I think I'm remembering that because I mean, it doesn't have much room over here.
There's not, yeah. When you start, that's.
Is there any benefit to running both bank? Because this is only pulling pressure off of the passenger side bank. Is there any benefit to running it off of both sides, or really is one side for what we're doing?
The catch,
plenty.
The catch can.
Yeah.
So the way that the Coyote system is set up is it's meant to expel crankcase pressure from this side, and this side is set up to for fresh air. So the Coyotes, it still works off of a vacuum setup, so it's going to suck air from this side and push air from this side. So this is our clean side. So usually you don't get any oil that will come out of this PCV fitting here. It's all going to come out on the passenger side for us there. You can do open atmosphere breathers where, you know, we're just putting filters on the ends of these.
The government don't like that.
They don't like that. It's smelly. It's going to drip oil down your valve covers. It's going to make a mess. As long as we have the catch can, we're going to catch the oil, and if a little bit goes back into the intake tract, we're not too worried about that.
Right. So it's basically, these things create a lot of crankcase pressure to begin with. Now we're just making that more with the supercharger, right? Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a good idea even on an NA setup to put a catch can on one of these Coyotes because of that. You pull a factory intake manifold off of one of these, it's going to have a lot of oil in it, just due to the combustion process. That's just how it works. So we're just trying to get the oil out of the intake, because that creates a lean condition. You're diluting your fuel with oil, so that makes it run leaner.
Yeah, which we don't want, because detonation, knock, all bad things. And as much as I'd love to put a short block in here, I don't necessarily have the money for it yet. And we have some other really cool stuff we want to do before I start playing around with. I really want to, but eventually. But at any rate, so pretty much once all that's done, we're talking a tune then, and that's pretty much it. Yeah,
we're planning on doing our first fire here hopefully tomorrow, and then we already have a base tune for it from Lund Racing. Once we get the first fire, we'll schedule with Lund, and we'll get the car on the dyno, and probably about 3 hours they'll have it knocked out, and the car will be ready to go home.
It has been way too long. Like I've said in multiple videos, probably said it multiple times in this one. It is now February, middle of February. I haven't driven this car since middle of August. And you see what you saw in the transmission video what I've been driving. While it's cool, it's got its quirks, but it gets me from point A to point B. It gets the job done. I don't really want to drive an old Durango anymore. I want my car back. So we are inching closer and closer to that. I think in the next video, we'll be on the dyno, and we'll find out just how much power we are making with this. I mean, I think it's safe to say that we're going to be well over 700 at the crank.
Yeah, I would with this pulley combo on here, and you know, we do have the 2018 manifold in this as well, which I kind of forgot about. So that, you know, that's going to help with flow. What that will do actually is potentially this is going to screw with people's
It lowers
minds.
the boost, but it helps flow.
Yep. So boost is a measure of restriction. So if we have something that flows better, boost will go down. But just because boost goes down doesn't mean we're making less power. We're going to make more power with less boost by having that 2018 manifold on there. But we should fall hopefully in the 650 to 700-ish area at the. I'd like to see at least 650 at the tire with this pulley.
At least.
And we can go further, just if Chad wants to.
Yes. So like I said, if we were to say mess around with pulley size here, you know, getting into the top end, say with cams or stuff, like those are all things I am considering. It's just when like we said, we are at almost at the limit of 93 at this point. So going further would require me having easy access to ethanol, and I don't think Jeff is going to let me put a couple 50-gallon drums of Ignite in here. So,
and when we say almost at the limit, we are safely at the limit.
Yes.
There's the limit, and that's the break. We don't want to be at that limit. So when you see the numbers, you say, oh, I know they can make more on 93. They can. How long can they make it?
Right. The whole thing of this is we want it to be drivable. I want to be able, that's another reason with the centrifugal, is that around town it's not making much boost. It's very docile. It's just like, it's almost like driving a normal Coyote, or like it was without it. So we want to make this thing as safe as possible. We're going to be making really good power. And like I said, down the road, I mean, let me put it to you this way. I have other other things to do to this that isn't the engine. I can kind of live with 650, 680 at the rear wheels for some time, but because I have, you know, we're not just touching the motor on this. We got a lot of other stuff, really exciting stuff planned. We're actually, probably the next phase of this, you're gonna get to meet the other half of Blue Sky, which is the body side of things. That's pretty exciting. But this video is pretty long one. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe if you haven't already. That's Jeff with Blue Sky. Links to them, their social media, their website, and everything like that are going to be in the description, because these guys are awesome. Crazy good work. I mean, if there's any doubt I brought this place to the right, or brought my car to the right place, I mean, there shouldn't be. So these guys are awesome. Check them out. They have, their Instagram's really awesome. They have a lot of cool stuff on there. They and if you need a car built, they can pretty much do it all. So definitely check those guys out. But as for this video, guys, I'll catch you next time when we're at the dyno.